My name is David S. Rose. I'm a serial entrepreneur turned angel investor turned venture capitalist. There's a serious problem in the early stage financing industry for entrepreneurial ventures, and a number of us have gotten together to try and do something about it. I'd like to introduce you today to a project we're working on, a pro bono industry wide project called The Feed, designed to democratize startup funding for early stage underrepresented founders. Diversity is not the strong suit for most early stage founders. One reason being that early stage founders themselves are not particularly diverse. The vast majority of early stage investors, both venture capitalists and angel investors, tend to be white males, often middle aged. That's not a very diverse crowd. One of the results of this is that the investment amounts into founders of color, diverse founders, is much less than you would expect otherwise. Black entrepreneurs received just 1.2% of a record $137 billion in U.S. startups in the first half of 2021. Women-only founded companies received just 2% of venture capital dollars, and black women received 0.27% of venture dollars in the U.S. That said, there is hope because the angel world, the angel capital world, is doing actually quite a bit better than the VC world. In fact, 15%, 15%, more than 10x the relative percentage of VC numbers went to black founders in angel dollars, and 29% of the investments made by angel investors went to companies led by women founders. Finding the cause for this disparity is tough. If you actually ask people on both sides, you'll get very dramatically diverging answers. From the investor perspective, it often appears to be a pipeline problem, where the number of non-traditional founders seeking funding, or the kinds of businesses they are seeking funding for, are simply not there. On the founder side, if you ask founders who are traditionally not represented, they'll tell you that they don't have access to investors, they don't know the investors, they haven't been raised in an environment or have role models of entrepreneurs who give them ideas and mentorship as to where they should be turning for funding. And when they actually get in front of investors, investors will be asking them different questions than they ask traditional white male founders. A number of studies have shown that white male founders often get asked about the potential upside of a venture, whereas black and female founders often get asked about how they mitigate the downside. This is a fundamental inherent problem. The Feed is an industry-wide initiative trying to solve some of these problems by starting out by trying to create better access to funding for founders who are traditionally underrepresented, try and provide access to a wide variety of diverse founders to investors who think there is a pipeline issue, and while doing so, create for the first time a comprehensive informational database of the actual data on the input side as well as the output side. There are three fundamental building blocks to the Feed. The first is a portal that will take in information about ventures, all kinds of ventures from anybody, comprehensive, detailed information about the who, the what, the where, the when. So you have that into a system. This live system then goes through and can be filtered on a granular basis by people seeking ventures to invest in. And that filtered data, that filtered feed output, will then go into their existing deal flow management and CRM systems automatically without further need. Okay, let's walk through on a detailed basis how the feed actually will work. We begin on the left-hand side with founders, and this is aimed at any founder, anybody who is seeking initially equity capital, equity investment, venture, or angel funding, but also eventually can be expanded to debt financing, SBA loans, and the like. These founders are directed to this portal, and the portal can be one location, it can be white labeled or private branded by other players. The idea is that everybody in the industry and around the industry is focusing people who are seeking funds to this one catchment point, and whether that is organizations like the Angel Capital Association, whether it is major corporate players in the social media space, whether it is supporting organizations, the goal is to focus everybody to put their information in here. In addition to proactively going out and trying to enter your information in directly, there are a number of platforms such as Gust that have existing people coming in. Our platform Gust receives between 8,000 and 10,000 company profiles every month from founders looking for funding. There are other ones as well, NFX Signal, various CRM systems. And so the goal is to take data in both directly manually as well as via API and use that to create a record. And this is where things get interesting, because the company feed record, this thing that will be starting from the founder and ultimately going to the investor, is comprised of several different parts. It's not one monolithic record as you would previously have seen. The first component of this record is what you would typically see. This is the company profile. This is the objective profile. How many employees? What are the actual revenues? What's the business model? What does the company do? Where is it located? So on and so forth. Note that it doesn't include founder demographics. It is the purely objective historical things about the company. A second piece, however, is where things get interesting, because this is the demographics section, and this is full demographics on the company's founders, management, and cap table. This information is required if you want to have this record go through the feed. It has to be filled out, but the record, the information in this record is not displayed on the profile. That's a very big difference. It's captured, and it can be used for filtering, but it is not displayed or branded. It's not like a giant letter saying I am a female founder, or I am a black founder, or a disabled founder. It's capturing the information, but it is not changing the objective nature of the company profile. In addition to that, the founder themselves, the person submitting the record in there, can decide who will get to see this, putting it into their control. So it's not you send it out and don't know who gets it. While you can't specify individual people, it can be directed to investors, VCs, angels. It can be directed to not-for-profits. It can be directed to supporting organizations. It can be directed to anybody who wants to see the record, commercial or not commercial alike. So that's under the control of the founder. And then we have validated information. Increasingly, since Gus pioneered the concept of the company as a service some 5 or 6 years ago, we are having systems that have validated information about a company. For example, its cap table, which is maintained in the cloud, its banking records, its sales records, its CRM system, other kinds of things. And increasingly, these are now accessible to the company and to other people under the company's option. And so to the extent that the company would care to link those in, you'll have the ability to add on direct from the horse's mouth, as it were, information about the cap table, the revenues, the finances, and so on and so forth. So this full record comprised of these several different components is then available for filtering. And the filtering here isn't simply, I only want to see SaaS platforms. The filtering can be very powerful. It can be rules-based, heuristics-based on anything that is captured there, even whether or not it's displayed. So, for example, somebody could filter this feed to only see SaaS products, or only see companies in Cincinnati, or, even though it's not displayed on the profile, to only see ventures founded by all black founding teams, or from veterans, or whatever. So you can, and even more than that, the real power of this comes because you can create a sophisticated rules-based filter, which might say, for example, my criteria of company objective criteria are X, Y, and Z, but I am also specifically looking to broaden my catchment area, and if the founder is a traditionally underrepresented group of founders of whatever, whether any underrepresented group or specific ones, women, founders of color, veterans, whatever it is, in that case you can modify the criteria, the objective criteria, to create a broader catchment area. And the goal here is to enable a potential investor to automatically filter this feed of everything coming in for specifically what they are looking for with whatever heuristics they have in terms of investment. And then this will, information from the feed, the goal is to deliver this directly to the investor's own systems into their CRM or deal flow management systems. There are probably a dozen or so systems that are used by a majority of venture capital funds, angel investment firms, and angel investment groups, as well as other players. And here we are working, hopefully, with APIs to all the major platforms so that these records, after filtering, can show up directly in the existing workflow, in the existing system of the investors. Initially, this is designed for equity investments, venture capital, and angel funding. It can eventually expand, as we noted, to debt financiers, SBA lenders, and others. But also, there are groups that are helping to move the ecosystem to a more diverse universe. And those are what we call supporting organizations, whether they are accelerator programs or groups set up to specifically lessen the friction for BIPOC founders or LGBTQ founders or veterans or whatever. Those organizations can also take the output of this feed, and they can then work with the company to help it get to a more fundable stage. And then, interestingly, they can put their badge on that company and put it back into the feed. And that's where the last component comes of the record, which are badges. And so, for example, if a company has gone through a particular accelerator program or has been vetted and vouched for by a supporting organization, that organization, with the company's approval, can badge the record. And so the next time it comes through, because this is not a database, this is a straightforward flowing feed, the next time it comes through, it will have that badge. And so therefore, an investor or anyone else can say, I only want to see companies that have been vetted or approved by X, Y, or Z, or have gone through this program. So it can be used in a very customized version as well. And for those venture funds and angel groups and others who are working already with specific supporting organizations, those supporting organizations can directly sort of hop over the whole thing and provide a link to that company directly to the funds or the investors that they're working with. And because we've heard from a number of founders that they are tired of just continually giving all this data into the vast dark over there, and they really only want to engage with potential investors who are serious about diversity of things, we have the ability, the feed will have the ability, to provide founders with the power to select who is going to see their profile. And you can do that on the basis of filtering. So they could say, we are only looking to have our record appear to those investors or others who are specifically proactively searching for people like us and not the general multitude. So you have as limited or as broad as you want. And then the final aspect of this is that because we're requiring all the demographics in, and you're requiring all of the granular information about the company, at the end of the day, the system, the feed itself, will have an enormous amount of data, and that, on an anonymized basis, will be permanently recorded and kept for analysis by academics and other researchers who are trying for the first time to get accurate data relative to who is looking for funding, what stage are they at, what types of businesses do they have, who is seeking companies in which to invest, and how this all works. So the data that is mined out of this on a non-identifiable basis should for the first time provide the statistics that will help the industry begin to really improve itself. So we're looking to work with a wide variety of organizations here. This is an open outreach. The initial groups, there are probably 30 or 40 groups that have started out the program. We are expanding. We are actively seeking participation from anybody who is looking to work in this area, whether you are an investor seeking a more diverse group of founders, whether you are a founder who is seeking broad access to investors, or a supporting organization, or a corporate player who can help by mentorship, by funding, by distribution, marketing, and the like. We are looking for anybody and everybody to come and join us. And to do that, simply go to this URL, tinyurl.com, join the feed, and please fill out the survey. It's a short survey. It asks, who you are, your contact information, how strongly you're interested in working in this. Is it a nice to have? have? Is it something that is critical to you? What areas in which you think you can contribute on which of the various working groups that we're setting up here? And so we are collating this. We will be having, we had the initial kickoff call in late January. We will be having calls in February and March with increasingly larger numbers of groups. This is 2022, with the goal being to launch an MVP of the feed by late spring, early summer of 2022. And eventually, with broad adoption, hopefully this will serve as a technical base for other kinds of initiatives in the future based on the data that we're gathering and the ability to identify founders and connect them with investors. So thank you very much for listening to the presentation. Please join the feed, tinyurl.com, tinyurl.com/join the feed. We look forward to working with you and having you help us make the whole world of early stage investment capital more diverse.